Now I know there have been tons of videos been put out by folks reloading the 223 or 556, but the reason that I'm doing this is because I'm using a turret press, so it's somewhere between, I guess, between the single stage press and the guys that reload really high volume with a progressive press, right? This is relatively quick going, and the way I see it, the most time-consuming part about the higher volume rifle reloading is not really the press, it's the case prep. And these cases have been cleaned, still got the primers in them, they are crimped, they are obviously once fired, because they're crimped, range brass that I picked up. And I'm just going to reload them with 27.5 grain of CFE223 there, and some CSI primers floating around somewhere as well, using the Lyman MSR die set. Small rifle primers, there we go. The good old 400s. Can't go wrong with these, right? For your plinking loads and stuff like that anyway. And these are just going to be FMJs with a Candelure Hornady 223 with a Candelure in them, right? So that's what we're going to use. We're going to throw the charges with a powder measure. But first off, we're going to resize these dudes, right? So I've got some DIY squirty stuff floating around here somewhere. And a tub where I throw this lot into. Someplace. There we go. Every reloader should have a Danish cookie thing. Because they are the same size as the RCBS shell holders. There we go. This is just lanolin and alcohol. I give that a few squirts. There we go, that'll do it. And then you can leave that for a little bit to dry. Put that out of the way, and in that time we'll put our dies in the press, starting off with resizing and decapping die, and maybe even a shell holder. There we go. Now what I'm going to trim these guys to we need that one, to their length. And what I'm going to use for more speed is the world's fastest, that's what this thing is called, case trimmer. This one, I bought this one for 223 Remington or 556, and then I made this one here. I just copied the thing with a ball bearing, and I just turned this thing out of a chunk of aluminum and put a end mill like this one has in the end. And this one is made for 6.5 Grander. Those are my two higher volume rounds that I use these trimmers for, because it's just quicker. For all other stuff, I've got a Hornady bench trimmer floating around here, one of these guys, yeah, and this gets used for everything else, but it's just the Grendel and the 556 where I do use a higher volume of plinking loads and stuff like that. So I tend to just for speed, I chuck this thing up in the lathe. You'll see in a minute when I've got the cases. And there we go, that's one set up. And we need a bullet seating die here. I've got this lock ring here set up, so I don't have to play around. He says. Jesus, that's a bit tight. I do have to play around with the seating depth, but not with the die setting. There we go. Back that out a bit. And then we have the good old-fashioned Lee Universal, the taper crimp, and we slap that one in there. That is already set up as well, and I just really crimped it very, very lightly. I don't use these. This is a chamber, probably, so you can drop your rounds in there. I've done so many 223s, and they chamber in my rifle with these die settings, so this can go away and off the bench. There we go. Now the aloe hole should have dried off by now. And yeah, that should do it. Let's see. There we go. Now we need our reloading trays here. That's the one. And we'll need that one later for priming the cases. And there we go. Number one. Yep. What the heck? Oh, that's not. I have to set the. There we go. So pushing up the. Decapping pin wasn't set quite deep enough. There we go, that's better. Because they don't really want to come out of there when they're crimped like that. Now obviously the case prep you only have to do, well, some of it anyway. What the heck? You only have to do once, i.e. the primer pocket stuff, but the rest you get to do more often per case, unless you really load them hard. And expand the primer pockets or good stuff like that. I've got a primer sitting there in the way, that's it. Now this brass didn't look too bad when I got it, so I just tumbled it in some dry media in the buzz bucket. That's why it's not deep primed yet. So if it's not too hard looking, I tend to deep prime them first with a deep priming tool from Frankfurt Arsenal. This dude here, that guy. And then once they're deep primed, then I throw them in the wet tumbler with some stainless steel pins to get them cleaned up. But these couldn't have spent on the range more than a day. Hey, I got a primer stuck in there somewhere. There we go. Sometimes they lodge themselves right in there and then the RAM doesn't go up. No, I had on one of the forums a guy was asking about progressive press and just having a progressive, starting out reloading. Now I've reloaded I don't know how many thousands of rounds on this thing. And for 223, to be honest, progressive, I don't know. In my book, not really needed. Because as I said, most time you're gonna have with case prep, and that is something, whatever kind of press you got, it's the same. It takes the same time. These are Lake City brass. My favorite one for the 223, or what it is, IMI. They don't look as pretty because they tend to have the annealing colors on the neck still on them, but they last pretty good. That's pretty good stuff. And it's raining again, which is why I'm here in the first place and not running the spruce moped and cutting firewood. Yeah, it happened again. I don't usually deprime on the press because I use a wet tumbler, but these guys, they look pretty decent, so, and not everybody's got a wet tumbler, so I thought I'd go the old-fashioned route. And we got, what was it, 65 cases or something? Now there are different ways of getting that crimp out. I tend to cut it out on the case prep center. I've got a swage here somewhere as well, but that thing is a pain in the butt. Oop. There. Done it again. Now, for our next trick. Get this guy going. And just cut out the primers. Or the swages for the primers. There we go. And at that point, I tend to inspect them for cracked necks and stuff like that. Give them a quick wipe down with a bit of a paper towel. And you can probably fast forward this unless you really want to know how long this stuff takes. So I'm going to just stick at it. So it's going to be a bit of a longish video, but just to give you an idea, we're doing this all in real time. So thus far the progressive press hasn't paid off yet, has it? What you can do, if you have a lot of these to do, it gets a bit stressful on your fingers holding the case up against the cutter there. You can wear rubber gloves. It gives you more grip on the cases. The thing is, you have to clean the cases before you do that. Otherwise, the case lube is going to negate the advantage that you've just got yourself with the rubber gloves. I rarely do more than 100 at a time, so it's not an issue. Don't want to do too many because it's so much fun. You don't want to, I want to leave some of that for another day. This lot here is actually all done, all prepped. Probably 1,000 or so in there. So I don't really have to do this today, but it's raining. I've always had this feeling that if you're using a progressive press, things tend to go, or could go, or are more likely to go through the mesh than if you are doing it this way, where you have every case in your hands multiple times before you end up with a loaded round. Yeah, so yeah. It's more about observing. I may be totally off base here because I've only run a progressive press a few times at a friend's place, and that was good enough for me not to buy one, really. I didn't see that much of an advantage. And if you do make a mistake and don't notice it, you'll find out a couple of 100 rounds later, and then you've got to pull those bullets and stuff and whatnot. So whereas here, it is more predictable. I think especially for somebody who's just starting out with reloading, progressive press is not the way forward. Single stage or turret like this, by all means. Get good before you get fast is something that somebody said once. These case trimmers here, you only set them up once for the whatever caliber they're made for, and that's it. So you trim the brass back to whatever size you think is best, or go into the specs in the book, and you can change the height or the depth of this. This is just an end mill in here, and it gets held in place with that grub screw, so you tighten that up pretty good. And what happens when you trim your brass, there's a ball bearing in here, and that will twist around until the round hits or gets to the end of the cut, and then it'll just stop still because now the case is being supported by this part of the ball bearing. So it's very easy to see once you're done cutting. And it's really quick. This one doesn't chamfer and deburr the case mouth, but there are some out there, I forgot the name of the manufacturer, who do a similar tool like that, and it already chamfers and deburrs the case mouth, so you're then, once you've trimmed it, you're ready for primers and powder and bullets. with this dude, I still have to do the deed chamfering and deburring each case. But again, it's one of those things that I don't mind doing because I have the case in my hand yet again to check for anything that isn't the way it's supposed to be. Yeah, two more and then we get to the next step. For that, I'll have to turn you around quick. So we'll plonk this guy in here. Take the sharp tools out of this lot. Turn this guy to about 1000 RPM. And there we go. Doesn't get quicker than that. Actually, it's a very, very light cut on these. Some of them are not even getting touched, so they are short. But in the case of uniformity, in the interest of that, that's a case now that wasn't even straight. And again, wearing rubber gloves with this lot helps. You grab a hold of the cases if you're doing real numbers, not just like I'm doing now here, 60, 65 cases or so. Obviously, you can do this with a battery drill or a normal drill in a vise, or again, many ways to take that cap. But this is by far the fastest way of trimming rifle cases. And it's very consistent. You just have to remind yourself that you have to do this after you size the brass. I just threw one behind the loading tray. And if you look there, when that's, there you go. Now when that stops spinning, that's when you've got it cut. Yeah. And it doesn't take long. While you're cutting, obviously the case mouth is up against the end mill in there, and once you get far enough through and you've got it cut off, then the weight of the case comes, or the force of the case comes up against that sleeve in here, which conforms to the shoulder of the case, and then the ball bearing does its job. There we go, that's 65 cases trimmed. Yeah, got you turned around again. So now the next bit is to Chamfer and Deburr. And again, this guy does that. I'm going to move it over here so you can see what's happening. That's the inside, and that's the outside. When I reload in numbers like this, I like using ball powders more than extruded ones because they're just nicer to work with in a powder measure. Whereas I find, as generally, the stick powders are more more accurate. But Varget and such, they are not very good to throw with these guys, so that's where the automatic powder measure there, that RCBS light jobby, comes in really handy, but it's slower. But then again, when you're not doing any big numbers, speed doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter to me anyway. After a while, you get to enjoy this just as much as shooting. There is something therapeutic about it. What I've got here is a primer pocket uniformer, and sometimes when I see a bit of crud or something like that in there, I just go on there quick and run that through. And again, while doing this, you're inspecting the cases again, so nothing much is going to escape that has flaws. This is where you really save time when you use a case prep machine like this. Different manufacturers make them, not just RCBS. You get them from Lyman, you get them from Frankfurt Arsenal and whatnot. They all do the same thing. They have some spinny things in there and that's it. And then you can screw your tooling, whatever you want to put on there, on those threads in the back of these guys are pretty much universal. Some people cut out the military crimp with this guy here. Works as well. And again, so many ways to kick that cat. In case you're wondering what that is, it's for deburring the flash hole. You stick the round in that way round, and it takes the burr off the inside. There's a little cutter on here, takes the burr off the inside of the flash hole. Now I'm not going to bother with these because these are really just plinking rounds. When I do the more accurate stuff, then these cases have to go through a bit more torture before they get corked with a bullet and ready for the range. Quite a lot of that stuff is just to make the reloader feel good. Because for your average Joe like myself, is it really going to make that much of a difference if your flash holes are deburred and the primer pockets are universally exactly the same size? Is it going to make a difference in accuracy? Noticeably for us, especially if you then go and stick the stuff in an AR-15. So I doubt it. If I want to go accurate in the 223 round, then out comes this guy, the 223 WSSM. I did a video on these, reloading these. That's what I shoot then. Then I won't mess with the 223 running. These are really more for playing on the range and eventual social work. There, now we won't be needing this anymore. Clonk. Now we are ready for some primers. Yeah. What we got? 65, right? 50, 65, yep. So, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 5. 64. 65 again. There we go. Now we need the shell holder for this puppy. This one was from the Super Short Magnum. Let's put that back in its box. And that is a Super Short Magnum. It's got a large rifle primer, so we have to swap that out for a small primer seating stem. that goes in there. That goes in there, like so. Chain holder on top. And there we are. These are tight pockets. This thing is actually adjustable with a set screw here, so you can adjust how far that little ram goes and pushes the primer in. I've got that set all the way up, and I go by feel, so I can feel whenever that primer is hitting the bottom of the primer pocket. It's no good if you have them all nicely adjusted, but you're still 5,000 short of the bottom of the primer pocket, and then you wonder why the thing isn't firing. That's because your firing pin is then seating the primer for you. But not actually making anything go boom. So there's that. What have I done here? That one is gone. there, that's that. Now we have to adjust our powder measure. Get the scale out. Clean hands a bit. Check weights. Five grain. Dead on. Oops, that was a bit on the large side. Come on. There we go. 35 grain. 0.2 out. And that means that now the scale is warmed up. And now if we set it to 0, yeah. Yep. 20. Good enough for the girls I go out with. And what did we want? We wanted 28.5, right? Let me look at my 27.5. Yeah, 27.5. Let's have a look what this thing is adjusted to. I think I had the WSSM. See what we got there, 48. Oh, that was the 3006, I think. So we have to go in quite a ways. More grains. .2, 26.8, 27.4, 27.5. 27.5. 27.6 and 0. We're good. acetone. There we go. I have to slow down a bit because it takes a little while for this powder to get through that small case neck. So you have to wait a little bit, otherwise you saw what just happened. You end up spilling part of the powder into your tray. And there's that. Now, we come to corking the things. I happen to have one FMJ around here. That one. So we'll see where we are at. The bullet comparator at 191.8 or 92. So let's cork one and see where we are. Actually, that looks about right. That'll do me. And it's about the middle of the candle. I gave a bag of these to a friend of mine as a present, and in his rifle they shoot rugged one-hole groups in at 100. He was quite impressed, and this is just my plinking stuff. This guy we have to come back to. Thank you. These really have just the lightest of crimps. Not that they need them, really. There's not, you can hardly see it. There's next to nothing. Now if you were to make these to store them for longer periods of time, what I do is I throw them back in the tumbler with some walnut media and some turtle car polish, and that leaves a very, very thin wax coating on these guys. And then put them in an ammo box with a rubber seal on it, and they stay good for years, really. I know some of you are going to say, "Ooh, you can't tumble the loaded round and whatnot." I've been doing that for years with no ill effect, other than the brass being nice and clean looking after a few years, because I used to live on the water, and the saltwater environment really wasn't doing any brass any good whatsoever. So yeah, this one has got a ding in the rim. Trash. So that was the way of preserving my ammunition in the bottom of the boat without the stuff going blue and funny colors on me. So, but this is pretty much it. Then you empty the hopper or the powder maker back out into your can, and you here comes my chicken. Hello, Olive. Hello, girl. Cook. Come on then. Yeah, you want to see what I'm doing? Do you? How did you get past those 2 oil cans? Cook. Yeah, I know. Quality control. Never leave your powder in the powder measure. It plays havoc with the plastic of these things. Makes them go all milky. It kind of like dissolves the surface, or I don't know. It's really weird. Yeah, that's it. Hello, Olive. What are you checking out? Be careful back there, there's a chainsaw. Don't cut your feet. And then come here, Olive. Chicken. Oh, yeah, there you are. Yeah. Oh, you want to see what I'm doing? Yeah. Easy. Easy. Yeah. Chicken. Look. Exactly. You got that all figured out? You got that all figured out? Yes. Don't you crap on my workbench here. Huh? Yeah. Well, drop one. Let's put that up here as well. Why don't you go and lay an egg or something? Why don't you go and lay an egg? Go in the coop. Look. There's nothing here for you to eat. Okay? I know. Oh, there you go. Silly chicken. Go and lay an egg. See ya. So, yeah, there we have it. You don't need a chicken if you're reloading ammunition, so just in case you were wondering about that, you can actually make 223 ammo or other calibers as well without the aid of a chicken. It's not a must-have. There you go. See you on the next one.